And we are live with the one and only J.R. White, who, as I just told him before we came on the air, he has supplanted E.L. Montague for my favorite book of the year. Can you show us the book, J.R.?
Yeah, this is it right here. Fortress of the Damned.
Book number 3 in the Kit Barker series. They're all good. But let's see. Who else we have? We have Tim McKay here, part of the Timocracy.
There we go.
And Tim McKay, you'll be happy to know that there is a shirt on its way to you, despite what it costs to send it to Canada. So that'll be the last shirt we ever send to Canada. And I did send it the cheapest way possible, so there is no tracking number on it. So if you don't get it, sorry.
It's coming by dog sled is what you're saying.
It is in the mail, as they say.
I once had to send a product. The furthest I've shipped something is I think Lithuania. And due to the nature of the product, because it wasn't one of my books, due to the nature of the product, I had to look up ITAR regulations and make sure I wasn't breaking any laws.
Good grief. And were you?
Well, we won't get into that. I don't think I was. This is a gray area.
For the purposes of this conversation, no, I was not.
No, whoever's on the internet with us at this moment, it's totally legit.
So what are we drinking tonight, JR?
I have opened up a new bottle that I actually bought a couple of years ago for the completion of this book. It is a Talisker Storm single malt Scotch whiskey.
Nice.
And I like that one a lot. They make it in the Isle of Skye. And it's nice. It's a little briny. It's a little smoky. It reminds me of when I used to be at sea.
I'm not a big fan of the smoky scotches, the ones that are too peaty or smoky. But man, a good single malt is hard to beat.
I've got a Scotch you would hate. Hey, Sam. That's my buddy Sam in the comment.
You're selling that.
Well,
I have this thing you would absolutely loathe.
This is probably one of my favorite scotches of all time. This is the Peat Monster by Compass Box.
Oh, yeah.
The guy that introduced this to me was my wife's granddad, who was just an exceptional gentleman. And he told me, Justin, this is like drinking from the bottom of a campfire. And I thought, that sounds gross. But it's actually my favorite. It's my favorite scotch. It's very good. I'm saving that.
You know what a bunch of guys do to
bottle.
A campfire when they're all standing around.
Yeah, just be careful what friends are around before you drink from the bottom of the campfire.
Yeah. Jerry, you're right. It doesn't sound that good.
Oh, come on, Jerry. You gotta give it a chance.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I try it. Right.
So
campfire, but
So Justin, how much does that one cost, the peat thing? Because I might be getting Roe a gag Christmas gift.
Joke's on you, because I'll drink it.
My father-in-law bought me that bottle, so I don't actually know.
No, I'll have to look up Peat Monster.
Yeah, I got it. What's it called again?
The Peat Monster by Compass Box.
All right, let's see. Oh, it's like $60 a bottle, man.
Oh, okay.
I guess not, huh?
No, not unless I get some really good book sales.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. That is the right idea.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, Kentucky knows what they're doing when it comes to the bourbons. They are hard to beat. They're pretty good. I'm also partial to rye whiskeys, personally.
Ugh, hate rye whiskeys.
That little bit of sweetness. I like them.
You just got to be willing to train yourself for it. That's all, Mike. If that means, sitting around drinking all day for weeks on end to get there, then so be it. It's the work you got to put in.
The dedication.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't be a quitter.
Just tell myself I could be writing, but no, I'm drinking bourbon I don't like.
Just get your liver and your taste buds on the same page. You'll be all right.
That's right.
Ooh. So, Justin, having read book 3, you've tied books 1 and 2 together now, and you have an overarching series. Like, there's an ultimate bad guy, I'm guessing, coming out eventually. How many books is this series going to be?
I know there will be one more to close out the current arc. And then after that arc, I plan to retain, some of the same characters and continue the series with a new overreaching arc. Okay. That's kind of my plan. I did have one friend who he raved about how much he loved the book and how he couldn't wait for the next one. And I couldn't resist going, "Oh, I'm glad you liked it, man, because that's my swan song. I think I'm done." He made a face.
Play with people like you. Do you do that to your mailing list as well?
If I send something out to the mailing list, it's it's going to be legitimate. If you want to get on my mailing list, go to authorjrwhite.com and you'll be able to hop on there. But yeah, there will be another Kit Barker that directly finishes off the larger arc that you've that you brought up with the first 3, and then after that it won't be a reboot or anything like that, but it'll be a new arc. So the characters' lives will continue, but with a new adventure. So
genre wise, what are we looking at?
They tell me that what I write is called Weird West. So
okay, that's a pretty thick book for Weird West.
You just got to put extra weird in it.
Okay. Is it too thick for the mic test though?
The mic test. What's the mic test?
How many pages you run in there?
The paperback. This is a story about formatting coming up here. The paperback is 500 and this copy I'm holding here is 549, but it actually came out to about 556. For the paperback.
So now I'm stepped in it now because I've read your book, and I've told everyone here for going on a year now that I will not read any book that's over 500 pages.
Whoops.
So, yep. Whoops.
You just tripped over those last 50, did you?
Well, it was on my Kindle, so you couldn't really tell because Kindle pages aren't real pages.
So you've got an author's copy there.
Yeah.
So the book is released when?
It's live now. It went live today.
Today. Okay, so today's launch day. Awesome.
Yeah, so like midnight last night.
And you said that the results from you doom scrolling on Amazon by pushing the refresh button. And what did you see? What did you see while you were doing that?
So all 3 of the things that I've published before, Shadow of Wolves, Hail of Brimstone, and The Bounty and the Bones, all of them made it to #1 new release on Amazon in their genre, in Western horror fiction, at some point, in their release period. And I was really hoping I could hit it on launch day here for Fortress of the Damned. And it made it up to #2. And I was refreshing it every half hour like a maniac until it dropped down to #3. And then I stopped. I'll try again tomorrow.
The way those things go, you were probably #1 at some point. You just didn't see it.
Yeah, it's tricky to catch it. I really don't know how Amazon's algorithms work. It's a little bit of a black box. I'm still trying to pick that particular lock to find.
I think if you figure that out, you've just got yourself another book that you can write, teaching other people how to figure it out. Because there are people who have spent a lot of time and money trying to figure out Amazon's algorithms, and they are no closer to being anything but broke.
Yeah, it's something else, and one of these days somebody will figure it out, and then they'll change it. But that's kind of the ongoing puzzle box.
So, Justin, I told you this before, but for our viewers, for Hail of Brimstone, when that came out, I had it on audiobook and I was listening to it as I was driving to Chattanooga for Chattanooga. So I'm just driving along, I'm listening to the story, everything's great, and I'm like, what's that light that just came on in my dash? And it's the gas light. And I'm just past Evington, Virginia. So I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, my God, I hope there's an exit in the next 20 miles. So I go, I fill it with gas, and I was like, damn, this is good. I totally, just flew the whole drive. So I fill up, I drive in, I'm going through Knoxville. It's raining, it's nasty. I'm driving, and like, lights on my dashboard. I'm like, oh shit, it's the I read it, listened to your book the whole way to Chattanooga, finished it just about as I got there, and twice I nearly ran out of gas thanks to your book.
What kind of mileage
that
does
is
your
actually
car get, man?
Sucks. Old beaters, bro. You know this.
That's
Damn,
well, I
dude.
mean, I drive a Chevy Suburban with a bunch of stuff strapped to it,
Yeah, well,
and
okay.
2 kids and a dog in the back, so I can't talk about gas mileage.
You just
Like-
you just file the Flying J truck and just do an aerial
Pretty
refueling
much.
as you're going down the road with it.
Yeah, pretty much. I've thought about installing like a mast and a sail.
Yeah.
But
So, Justin, I wouldn't feel too great about this because Tim's Canadian, so he really likes everyone.
it's
But,
His bar's pretty low.
culturally obligated. I actually, I think, recently started following Tim on X on Twitter.
Probably. He has like 10,000 followers. So
I'm just another drop in the bucket.
People say he's a righteous dude.
Yeah.
And he's written a 705-page book that he keeps telling me I have to read, and that's just way past my 500-page limit. So
Yeah, but we saw what just happened to your 500-page limit.
Right.
So
I know. Oh well, you're the exception that makes the rule.
So how long does it take you to turn one of these out, Justin?
I wish I had a consistent answer for that, because Shadow of Wolves, I wrote the first draft of that in like, I want to say something silly, like 19 days or something. Like
That is silly.
like I cranked it out super quick, and then I just picked at it for like 15 years. And then the plague years came, and I had been like trying to get an agent. I'd sending out query letters and all this stuff. And then the plague years came, then I was like, people are dying, I'll just self-publish it. And well, I mean,
What the hell? People are dying. I'll just do
it's
this.
like, it's like life. It was hammered in that, life's a little shorter, and I didn't make headway in the last 15 years doing it the traditional route. It's a new day. Let's do this. And so self-published it, and then it was almost a year to the day between Shadow of Wolves going live and Hail of Brimstone going live. Like, Hail of Brimstone just fell out of me. And I really thought, 18 months is what it'll be to get the next book out. And then it was about a 3-year gap between Hail of Brimstone and this new one, Fortress of the Damned. I'm gonna shoot for a closer, for a faster turnaround than that this time. I'm hoping to have the new one out, hopefully next year, 18 months at the latest. I have a preference for releasing them around Halloween, just because of the horror elements.
Sure.
But I might release a summer read if I can get it done in time.
So what were you thinking over 3 years? Because, I mean, I've been 10 months now, and I'm starting to worry myself. But you're talking 3 years. I think if I was to go 2 years without publishing a book, I would be seriously considering what the hell it was that I'm trying to accomplish.
I'm
not saying that's true for you. I'm just asking.
I definitely had those moments. A lot of stuff went on in my life in that time period. My wife got a medical retirement from the U.S. Army. We moved yet again. Just a lot of sort of career change stuff and things up in the air, and adapting to new setting and a new place and new triumphs, new struggles, and all that kind of stuff. And so things just kept kind of getting in the way. And then it was actually last Christmas, I was at my parents. We were, me and my whole family went to my parents' folks way up in the mountains up in Virginia. And I got sick, and Jenny got sick as well, my wife. We both got COVID over Christmas in the middle of nowhere at my parents. Like, she had to go, I had to drive her like an hour to get her to a hospital through these mountain roads. So what that meant is we just kind of sat in the sunroom at my folks' house because we didn't want to go interact with everybody else because we, were contagious. And I just cranked out the rest of the book in like I cranked out the back third of that book, sitting in a chair in the sunroom, kind of dying. So, but it,
trying to convince your parents that whiskey is good for COVID.
Yeah. A lot of my hydration is, coffee or whiskey.
It's mostly water, so that's fine.
I mean, they are two different food groups.
Yeah, that's how I maintain. Well, yeah, because this is technically a grain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and coffee is bean soup.
And if you drink wine, that's your fruit group, so it's all good.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be able, especially now with leaving my past employment here recently, I am going to be able to write a lot more consistently. Already, I've been able to write more consistently. So he appears to be motivated by death. Aren't we all?
So how are you doing your marketing then? I'm assuming most of your sales are coming online through Amazon or through your website or whatever.
Yeah.
What's working for you in that respect?
So I'll run like Kindle countdown deals on the books. I'll, especially now that I've got some back catalog, now that I've got, 4 things out published, I'm probably going to keep a lower price on the first book. I'm probably going to do some runs where the first book is just free for extended periods to try to, get people in. Otherwise, I do some Facebook advertising and I do some email campaigns, and I use written word media a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they now do a thing where they'll combine Facebook and email campaigns for you. So that's something I've recently started doing with them. I'm not sure yet if that's paying off or not. So I'm getting sales. I'm getting sales, and I'm getting readers on Kindle Unlimited. But I just started those actually this week. I started those this past weekend. And I don't know yet whether those are going to cover their cost as far as what I bring in. So if anybody's looking for ideas, I would say take a look at those. But, I can't openly vouch for them yet because I don't know yet whether I'm getting, a viable return on my investment for those.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those things, when you start doing it, it's kind of like buying a lottery ticket, isn't it? It's like, you figure you're probably going to lose your money, but every now and then you hit on the right combination and it works pretty well.
Yeah.
The key is being able to replicate it.
Yeah, it really is. It's like picking a lock. It's
probably
like,
a better analogy.
Yeah. I've got something, and then that pick slips in your hand, and you're like, oh nope, crap. Yeah. So I do hope to be able to start doing more like local signings. There's a big show, Orlando Reads, that they do down in Orlando that I'd like to start getting involved in. There's a local writers guild here in my town in Gainesville, Florida, the Gainesville Writers Alliance. So I'm going to start getting more involved with them and just kind of see what I can do from a grassroots perspective. So that's kind of the plan there.
So I was telling Ro before you clicked on that there's a lot of breweries around here who have artisan fairs or whatever, usually Sundays from like noon to 5. And I'm thinking people will be drinking alcohol and, buying stuff. Mine's right before Christmas. I'm like, I wrap my hardbacks up now in maps, like, so they're already gift wrapped. They'll be drinking. I'm like, how can this fail? So, but yeah, I'm looking. I was telling Ro I'm going to try to do either big shows where I have to travel or else something local like you one day here. That's my plan for next year, just because I want to go to Worldcon in Seattle and see a bunch of the people who were in the comments.
There's Sam commenting that I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Yeah, which is true. I'm a dual black belt. I have a black belt in Japanese jiu-jitsu and in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Sam's in the know. Sam before.
Oh, so my brother, at least he wasn't watching the show. Maybe he still is. What did you used to do when you were in Leavenworth?
Also, when I was in Leavenworth, and for those of you that don't know what that means, my wife was stationed at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. I was not in Leavenworth prison, just so we're clear on that. When I was at Leavenworth, I was teaching combatives for the Army. They had a combatives program there that I was brought in as one in. And so we were teaching soldiers how to fight. And Leavenworth was really cool because there's an international war college at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. So in the 2 or 3 years that I was there and was able to teach there, I got to teach soldiers and military personnel from all of the branches in the military and about 10 allied or friendly nations. And it might just be one guy from that country, but I would still put that list like, oh, I trained somebody from Poland today. That was cool. I trained somebody from Thailand today. That was cool. So that was a really neat posting, and we had a lot of fun there. And then, from there we ended up going to San Diego, and then from San Diego to Florida, and then from Florida to Maryland, which is where I met you, Mike.
Yep.
And then, my wife got her
pretty good assignment selection for the Army.
Oh, so my wife is she's a veterinarian. She was a veterinarian for the Army. Yeah, and the U.S. Army supplies the veterinarians for all the other branches, so we could get stationed anywhere. And our first station ended up being Leavenworth, Kansas, and I knew that was going to happen too because we had picked all these like really cool places, right? Like we were going to do Destin, Florida, and we were going to do Vincenza, Italy, and we were going to do Germany, and all these like nice places. And she goes, "Oh, I've
somewhere
got
somebody in a back room in the Army is laughing at you."
Well, she
goes,
"Those are our top 3. For number 4, just as a backup plan, I have an aunt that lives in Kansas, right near Leavenworth. We should put Leavenworth as our number 4, because then if we get stuck at Leavenworth, we'll be by family." And I said, "Okay, but if we put Leavenworth as number 4, we're going to Leavenworth." And she's like, no. Why would the military do that? And I'm like, some dude's just going to throw these lists all next to each other. And if no nut job has put Leavenworth, Kansas higher than number 4, we're going. And so we went. But it was still pretty cool. I got to do a lot of cool stuff there. I led my own MMA team there, had some local champions and a lot of fun. And my oldest daughter was actually born there, so not too bad.
Nice.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We're going to actually talk about the books, just a little bit.
We'll get there.
Not for long. So where was your first book? Did it mainly take place at? Was that Arizona, New Mexico, somewhere in the Southwest? For
the first book mostly takes place. Shadow of Wolves mostly takes place in the Mojave Desert, which is the high desert in sort of Arizona and Eastern California and Nevada, kind of that region. You also have the Sonoran Desert in Arizona as well, and that's where the Bounty and the Bones takes place, is in the Sonoran Desert. So Shadow of Wolves is in the most of the story takes place in like the high Mojave, and to get there they go through Arizona territory. They go to Prescott. From Prescott they go to Flagstaff. Of course, they discover that Flagstaff, Arizona doesn't actually exist yet, so they go to the historical predecessor, because that was one of the tricks of writing these sort of weird westerns, but wanting to have them be historically accurate with the exception of like whatever the weirdness is. And I was going to have them meet in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I Googled the Flagstaff Historical Society, and I wrote to them saying, hey, I need to know some stuff about Flagstaff in like 1874. And I heard back, yeah, there's no such place. There's a place called Antelope Springs, and we had a huge pine tree we lopped all the branches off of, and we put a flag on it, and people would tell each other, I'll meet you at the Flagstaff, which was just this like little, it was a spring there, and it was a trading, stop. And so originally I was planning on saying Flagstaff and having a whole town and everything, and then the Historical Society got back to me, and they're like, no, it doesn't exist.
Do you do that a lot? Write to people like that and those type of local groups and ask them for information?
I do. I like having that historical accuracy. I know I could get away with not having it because I'm writing weird Western fiction, or I'm going to have werewolves and cursed relics and monsters in the trees and all sorts of stuff. But I like having the realism that it gives you if you do historical accuracy. So I wrote to the Flagstaff Historical Society for Shadow of Wolves.
In this instance, obviously, they were very good. Do you find that they're usually pretty good about answering your questions and in a reasonable kind of time and giving you the detail that you're looking for?
Yeah, they're pretty receptive. I kind of give myself like three emails. If I can't find out what I need to know within 3 emails, then I'm just not going to bother them anymore. But I'll usually just introduce myself, say what I'm writing about. I may not mention like, by the way, there's werewolves. I just feel like I'm writing a historical novel. And, I want specific questions I'm going to ask them so that they don't have a nebulous thing that they're dealing with. So I wouldn't just be like, hey, tell me about Flagstaff. I'd ask specifically, what was the size of the town? Can you tell me anything about the demographics? If you get somebody that's real, like kind of open and friendly, like for this past book for Fortress of the Damned, I wrote to a guy out in Montana, with Fort Benton. I think I thank him in the acknowledgments. Yep, Kenneth Robison, probably pronounced Robeson actually, but he's at the Overholser Historical Research Center in Fort Benton, and he writes a bunch of historical books about the time period. And hey, Tom, and I, emailed him and I said, hey, I'm writing a book about this adventure in Montana Territory, 1877-ish. What can you tell me about the town in terms of these following things? And he gave me a lot of good information. He gave me some good suggestions about, routes I could pursue and interesting, things a writer might find interesting. I got lucky on that one because he's a writer himself. Yeah. So that helped. If you encounter a fellow storyteller, that they're going to be usually more open. But yeah, it's really helpful. A lot of online sources as well. But I like the historical accuracy stuff.
So what has been, through comments or reviews or whatever, what has stood out for people with your series the most? Is it your main character, or is it the kind of story itself, or the your weird plot?
What I find people commenting on the most is they really like how I tell a story. They really like my descriptive writing, the detail. They say they can see the things in their head. One of my favorite reviews, a guy said, he was talking about my fight scenes, and he said, Justin, J.R. White writes a fight scene like Guy Ritchie directs a movie. Nice. Fast and quick and in vivid detail. And yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I took a screenshot of that one. So when I'm having a writer's block, down on myself day, I'll pull that up for a boost.
Yeah. So for anybody who's here watching JR tonight, he's been on the show before, and I think it's probably worth talking about, going over again a little something that we talked about before, and that is how long should a fight scene be?
So I actually have a bunch of stuff that I tell people about fight scenes. So as far as length, like in reality, violence is quick, right? Like in the real world, violence happens terrifyingly fast. If you don't believe me, watch the Nature Channel, right? And see how much they have to rely on slow motion to show you the cheetah taking down the zebra. Right. They gotta stretch a whole special out of 27 seconds of action. So when you do a fight scene, you do want to be kind of quick and concise, and you don't want to drag it out like page after page. A good fight scene, in my opinion, unless you're doing something that's like a contest, right? Like you can stretch like a boxing match where there's rounds and stuff. You can stretch that out. If you interspace it with other action behind the scenes, like I did in Hail of Brimstone with a fighting event, you can put that over a couple chapters. But if you're just doing like two guys met in an alley and only one of them's walking out, I give that 3 paragraphs tops. I think you can deal with that quickly and effectively without having to stretch it out more than like a page or two. That's kind of my take on it.
It's probably kind of like, what people always used to, people used to say, it's going to be 2 hits, me hitting you and you hitting the ground. And that's pretty much what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. In real life, in a lot of violence, it is. Sometimes it'll drag out because most people don't know how to fight. Generally speaking, humans are sort of programmed with like a universal fight plan. And that's just, I'm going to close with you, you're going to close with me, and we're going to swing haymakers until one of us goes away, or trips over something or something like that. And if you know how to fight, that's easy to deal with. That's 1-2 and you walk off. But if you don't know how to fight, and most people don't know how to fight, then you're going to, please read that comment.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught that.
My lighting is absolutely horrible here.
That row is being absorbed by his background, and I read it and I looked up just in time to see him do the Homer Simpsons in the bushes, just testing it out.
Trying to get away from the fight. Oh no!
But in reality, fighting is very quick. Violence is very quick. But in a book, just like in like an action movie or something, right? It's part of the entertainment, and I try to write my fight scenes so that you could see them like you would see the fight scenes in a movie, right? So that you can get entertainment value from the fight itself. And that requires really good visual, like descriptive writing, because you have to make it visual if you're going to make the fight entertaining, right? You do need an emotional element, like, is he going to win? Is he going to lose? And that kind of stuff. You want people to have a clear picture in their head of what's happening.
Okay, so I have a question for you, because I may have bragged a little bit about you. When I was at work, I was like, yeah, we're going to interview a guy. He's a professional MMA fighter. Like, oh my God,
yeah.
On TV? I'm like, yes, he was on the undercard. Sure. So,
I was closer to the underground than the undercard. Some of my fights were live streamed on the internet. I was never on like pay-per-view, like the big shows like the UFC. Some of my teammates were on UFC. Some of my teammates were on Elite XC and Strike Force, who, if you fans of MMA fighting, will recognize those promotions. But I have a question here. Do you think it helps to actually have martial skill when writing a fight scene? Yes, I think it helps immensely, with one caveat. That caveat is that when you learn a martial art, they're going to have names for a lot of the techniques, and they're going to have jargon for for different movements and things, right? And you know, I have some guys in the comment section right now who know jujitsu. So if I say, you know, I'm going to execute a single leg, perform a blender pass, and finish with a darce, they can picture what I just described, right? But unless you're in that sort of subculture, that was just a string of nonsense.
Yeah,
So-
but you had me at blender, so I'm thinking there's some type of fruity drink involved, like maybe an umbrella or something. So
you
Yeah.
know,
Tom, you're right. Yeah.
so the idea is that it does very much help to know how to fight if you're going to write about fighting, but you just want to avoid jargon, right? You want to make sure that you tell it in plain language. As he throws a blender at the opponent.
Put your hand in here.
Somebody just commented, hit them with that chameleon tongue. That's an actual jiu-jitsu move, the chameleon tongue. But that's exactly the kind of thing you want to avoid, right? Because a huge body of your readership is going to go, well, I don't know what that means. And it takes them out of the story. Right. So you want to be careful. You do want to be careful about that when you write. I think a really good example of someone who knows about violence and writes violence well is Jack Carr, who writes the James Reese series. So the Terminal List, which got made into a show on Amazon starring Chris Pratt. He had a new book that just came out, I think, like Red Sky Morning, something like that. But he's a former Navy SEAL, and he also practices jiu-jitsu, I believe, and he knows quite a bit about violence. And so naturally his action scenes are very well written. And one of the reasons, in my opinion, is because he doesn't use jargon. So be careful of that trap when you're writing fight scenes.
See, now if it were me, I wouldn't want to use like chameleon tongue, but I would totally have like Kit Barker going into a bar, like, hey, we have chameleon tongues on the menu today, and just do something like that. That I would find irresistible.
and that's why Justin's are number 1 and number 2 on the list.
I didn't catch that last.
What was that, Ro?
I said that's why his books are number 1 and number 2 on the Amazon list.
It's taken all my willpower not to hit refresh just real quick and see.
Go ahead and do it. Go ahead.
I should.
Let us know what happens. Come on.
It's been half an hour.
We'll give you a little drum roll here.
It has been half an hour. Let's see what happens.
I'm a horrible drummer, by the way.
No, it's still at number 3.
All right. Hey, third place is on the podium, man.
I need everyone in the comment section to go buy my book
again,
and then at the end of the show we'll refresh.
That's right.
And we'll see if you put me at the top of the list.
That's the best sales pitch ever on this show.
It's a social experiment. We should
You've
all
given them a reason to do it and feedback, that they'll get almost, right away. So that's awesome.
That's a better pitch than Ro I have ever given. And we've done 180 of these shows.
Have we really?
We have. And hey, that's a great idea.
Keep coming back.
I will try to pull it up real quick and drop a link in the comments for all my books. Can you do live links in the comments?
Well,
we'll find out.
Put a link in the comments, but I'd give it a shot.
I'm not a complete troglodyte, but I'm not as tech savvy as some folks.
There, beat you to it.
Douglas said he's buying all the recommended books. Well, Douglas, in that case, I've got a deal for you. I'd like to recommend
quick.
9 of them.
And if you'd like them signed.
And Mike would like to recommend 5 or so.
Yeah.
We get you hooked up.
Yeah, say hi to Wyatt for me, Doug.
Lisa says it works. So that's good.
Oh, outstanding.
Sam is giving you shit.
Yeah, he is. He's a friend of mine, and he's a very good businessman, and he's absolutely right. Now, Tom has asked here in the comments if I'm planning on doing an audio version, and absolutely I am. In fact, production on the audiobook should start just in the next few days. Because of the systems I'm using to self-publish at Amazon and at Audible, I have to have it live for sale on Amazon before I can start production through the Audible Creators Exchange. It's
Your
just
book
kind of
has
one of
to
the
be up
vagaries.
first?
Now, the book has to be up first if you're going to use Audible Creators Exchange.
ACX,
Now, if you wanted to, you could probably reach out, contract with a narrator, have him do up the files to spec and everything like that. And then when your book goes live, you could then go right to Audible, be like, hey, here's the files, and you could probably cut down your production, your dwell time between print coming out and audio coming out if you did it that way. But that's the first time I've actually thought of that.
So
I didn't do it that way.
Odd that they do that. You would think that they would have a more vested interest in trying to get you to release both at the same time.
That's what I would think as well. That's what would make sense to me. But for whatever reason, that's not currently the case.
They're a very large company.
Yeah, hopefully that'll change. The main thing that concerns me with Audible, honestly, is that Audible still has a little bit of a problem with returns, where someone has enough time to take your audiobook, listen to it, and then return it. And that basically steals from the author.
Sure.
So listen up, internet. If you do that, Audible's not a lending service. If you do that, if you listen to that book and then you return it, they pull that money back from the author. Right? So don't do that. Don't steal from people. But I am going to do the audiobook, and I've already reached out to Micah Mason, and he's on board to do the next book, which I'm ecstatic about. He does a fantastic job.
Did he do the previous books?
Yes,
he did. He did all three of the published works. He did Shadow of Wolves, Hail of Brimstone, and Bounty in the Bones, and just a fantastic job. And he did such a good job that now when I'm writing Barker's voice is Mason's characterization of him. He does a fantastic job.
So are you one of those people who keep spreadsheets on things, and do you know where your payback is really coming from? Is audiobooks keeping up their end, or are they the biggest portion of sales that you're seeing, or is it still ebooks?
It honestly, it varies a lot. I had one summer, probably the summer of it was during the plague years, so it was probably the summer of 2020. And for whatever reason, I don't know if people were listening to more audiobooks because of the lockdowns or what, but all of a sudden I was getting 3-4 times my usual sales in audiobooks. People were buying the amount of audiobooks I've sold this month. During that summer, I was selling 6 times as much.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't do anything different in my advertising. I wish that I knew the magic bullet to replicate that.
So when you have months like that, where you get, these big spikes in sales, and then it carries over to a second month, how difficult is it to not think ahead, right? And to keep yourself on the kind of path that says, this too shall pass. Don't get too excited about this.
It kind of does, but it's hard. You see a good harvest coming in, and it's it's hard not to think it'll always be like this.
Right.
I have found one thing to be very true, and that is and this isn't original to me. I don't know who originally said it, but it is the best thing you can do for sales of your last book is write the next one.
Yep.
That's definitely.
And then let people know,
true.
of course, that you've written them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a caveat you should probably throw in there.
Yeah. You do have to let people know. You can't hide it under a bushel, that's for sure.
Mike was telling me before we came on that someone who comes in and is in the chat quite often says, you know, like I was watching you guys, like, what do you say, Mike? I was watching you guys like 2 months before I knew Roe was an author.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah. Gotta let people know.
Yeah, I do. I need to get out there more, to be honest. And hopefully I will have a little more time to do that here in the near future.
With a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old? Yeah. Good. Yeah, 6 years maybe.
One of the most horrifying things that was ever said to me as a parent was when my 13-year-old was just a little kid. She was like 6, right? And she was going to a daycare on the military post, which they call it the CDC, right? And it's for Child Development Center. But Center for Disease Control always pops up in my mind because children are petri dishes.
Oh, yeah.
And we all were getting sick constantly. Like
my wife worked at one of those for years, man. I know.
Oh man, I bet she had a cast iron immune system by the time that was done.
It's crazy.
And so the whole family had gotten sick. Like I was like ambulance ride sick. My only ambulance ride in my entire adult life. I passed out on the floor. And when I woke up, I looked over and my dachshund was like looking at me. And I tried to give my dachshund that Lassie moment. I was like, go get Jenny, go get Mama, right? And the dog just kind of tilts its head and is like, I'm not coming over there. The hell, man, am I even getting fed, right? And not that I'm bitter, you know, she was a lovely dog while she lasted, but she left me to die. And my wife comes down and finds me semi-conscious on the floor and calls an ambulance and all that. You know, we go to Balboa Naval Medical, to Balboa Hospital there in San Diego. And, you know, I have a lovely experience of having a nurse, you know, probe me in all my orifices and whatnot. And dog figured you were poisoned.
Wow.
That's why she didn't eat my corpse. But anyway, you know, a couple days later, after I'm out of the hospital, Jenny gets horribly sick. She goes to the hospital. I'm in there with her, and I'm still like out of it. And I'm there with, you know, the kiddo is at school. Luckily, at the time, she's at the CDC. And the doctor goes, "Oh, you guys have kids? Yeah, they bring a lot of stuff home. It's gonna kind of be like this for like the next 7 years." And I put my head in my hands, and I was just like, 7 years. Just so that's the
Good
thing.
times.
Now, if you've got kids out there in the comment section, don't be scared, right? If you're thinking of having kids, don't be scared. They're wonderful. They outgrow all their challenges, to be immediately replaced by new exciting challenges of a different kind.
And then when they turn about 13, you kind of lose them for a few years. You get them back about their sophomore year of college when they start realizing that, hey, they were right about a couple of things.
Yeah.
So we learn a tremendous amount in 5 years.
I think I told the kiddo this morning, like, I'm telling you, kiddo, you should move out now while you still know everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Justin, you told us before we came on live, at least I think you did, or my memory's bad. What did your daughter say today when she got her braces?
So my oldest, who's about to be 13, went in today and got braces, and immediately Jerry goes, "I'll take her." Jerry's talking about my youngest. That's what Jerry's talking about. But my oldest, you know, she turns to me and she goes, and like, of course, we're at the checkout desk, right? So it's not like even by ourselves privately. We're at the checkout desk with some nice young nurse just trying to do her job. And my kiddo goes, "Dad, now if I bite somebody, it'll hurt more, right?" I'm just like, yes, but that's bad for your brackets. So don't do it.
That's right. You don't need to get tightened again.
Yeah. They're fun. Do you guys have? I know you have cicadas in Maryland. I don't know. Are you in Maryland, Ro?
No, I'm in Southwest Virginia.
Okay, so you got cicadas too.
Yeah, not too bad.
My oldest daughter, put a bunch of cicada casings in her hair, like all around her head. And I can't talk too much because it must be genetic, because I used to put these things on my clothes, right, when I was her age. And she runs up to one of my buddies, we're at his house, runs up to him and goes, "Cicadas are so in this season." And then just runs off. And he's like, "Yeah, in here." Oh man,
we're getting off books here and talking about.
We are getting off books. I'm
no,
sorry.
That's quite all right. I think one of the proudest moments I ever had was when my son was probably like 11 or 12, maybe a little younger. He told a joke, and I don't even remember what it was. It doesn't matter. But the timing was so good. And I just remember sitting there going, my work here is done, right? He can deliver a joke with the appropriate timing. I've done what I need to do in this world. So. Hey, real quick, we got somebody in the chat called Finn VT with the VT capitalized. Finn, what's that VT all about?
Is that Vermont?
Vermont or Virginia Tech? Which is it?
Ro is hoping it's one of those two.
Well, what the hell else would it be? Unless it's just his initials, which would be really.
I wonder if that's my buddy Finn. If that's my buddy Finn, he just had his first Muay Thai fight just a few weeks back. I'm very proud of him. Yeah.
And how did he do?
I'm very proud of him.
Excellent. He got in there.
He's still here to watch the show, so hey.
Yeah. No,
still capable of using his fingers.
He did a good job. If that's the Finn I'm thinking of.
What's the VT stand for then?
I don't know. I know he does video game streaming and stuff like that. So I don't know.
What did he
Maybe
just come in
answer.
and put LOL and leave? What the hell's up with that?
He'll come back in, but I'm very proud of my fighter Finn. He did a good job. He went in against an opponent who turned out to just be a lot bigger than him. Probably just a guy that was better at cutting weight and then putting it back on. But yeah, it was a fun night, and I know he's hungry to do it again, and I'm eager to see him do it again.
You remember the old Looney Tunes cartoons where like Daffy Duck gets in a ring with somebody once and just keeps running around going, woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
Ro, you're going to be disappointed.
Here we go. Here, it's an acronym for virtual tuber, usually for people who use an avatar when they make videos online, rather than an actual webcam.
Oh, how about that?
Is that Finn? Because he says, also, yes, another fight very soon. All right. Yeah.
So have you done Muay Thai?
What was that?
Have you done Muay Thai or Muay Thai, whatever it's called?
I trained in Muay Thai and I coached in Muay Thai. I didn't fight in Muay Thai specifically. I fought in mixed martial arts. So I could use Muay Thai techniques, but it wasn't Muay Thai, it wasn't Muay Thai contest rules. So I could knee people in the face, elbow people in the face, punch, kick, clinch, all that fun stuff. But I could also do the jiu-jitsu.
Oh, so Catholic school playground rules. Pretty
much, yeah, pretty much. Except that when you were winning, they'd let you win instead of a nun coming off the top ropes.
Oh, those sons of bitches, freaking nuns. You should go to take your books to comic conventions and just put a sign up that says, if I can put you in a leg lock in under 30 seconds, you need to buy my book.
The problem with that, word would get out and I would have skilled people start showing up
at a Comic-Con.
Yeah. You were
not before you sold out of books.
Yeah, not before I sold out. But I'll tell you what, something that I definitely learned from fighting is just be nice to everybody, because man, there are some killers walking around out there. Some absolute maniac axe murderers who are the nicest, most meek, unassuming looking people you'd ever meet. I had a teammate named Brandon when I was competing. This guy wore like Coke bottle glasses. He cried at those Sarah McLachlan, animal shelter commercials.
Right.
He was like vegetarian, and like you would never in a million years would you look at this guy and think that guy can dismantle me at will. Like you'd never think that, right? Just did not give off a threatening vibe at all. And he would go in the cage and he would hurt people. Like he would finish people in the first round and then he'd walk out of the cage, put his Coke bottle glasses back on, and go to the nearest vegan restaurant like nothing happened.
It's all that
Be nice to
anxiety
people.
and rage from being nice all the time.
It could be.
I thought from being vegan.
And I got to comment on this real quick. Douglas said, "You guys have no clue." Well, yeah, 180 episodes. Yep, that's true.
He's talking. I think Doug is referencing my physical capabilities.
No, I figured that actually by context clues.
Yeah. But yeah, so I am excited about this new book though. People have been telling me that the people who have read it are telling me it's my best work yet.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, just like all the other stuff you do, you get better at it the more you do it, right? So
I would hope so. Yeah, I would hope so. And I'm man, don't say stuff like that, Doug. You're gonna get me in trouble, man. The internet's big.
this show is tiny, so you're probably all right.
Yeah, and other than when you're on, those type people are not watching our show.
I don't know. You'd be surprised. He likes a good story.
I mean, Tim McKay, he might have anger issues and be really doing that.
The group of Tims there.
But yeah, I'm proud of this new book. I'm happy with that it came out. I feel like I took some risks in this book, with the storytelling and all the reports I'm getting back that they were worth it and they landed,
Right.
and things work. I had a great team of advanced readers and of pre-readers, editors that gave me feedback and kind of pushed me to actually more risk in some of the areas, and it really paid off. I'm really happy with it. I'm really looking forward to the audio production. Because I'm just a big fan of the audiobooks, and I like the extra dimension that brings. I don't think anything beats sitting down, oh man, if you sit down on a rainy day with the wind blowing and you've got a good drink and a good book, I don't think that can really be beat. Like the physical book in your hands, I still think that's the gold standard. But I love a good audiobook performance, and I'm really excited to see what Micah Mason does with Fortress of the Damned.
Do you I mean, going along quite well with this series, but is there anything else kind of rattling around the back of your head that you would like to try that's a departure from this type of thing?
I started working. When's the movie coming out? Patience.
Can't talk about that.
Yeah, I did have someone ask, "Are you going to narrate it yourself with this voice?" No, I'm not going to do a middle-aged Native American woman or a 13 or 16-year-old Irish girl, or I'm just not going to do that.
No, in today's day and age, that's probably a good call.
I'm going to have a professional do that. When I put up auditions for the first book before I hired Micah, because he nailed the audition. One of the things I did put in is, don't you dare make my characters sound like caricatures, right? Like, don't you do a voicing for my, former slave that sounds like you're putting on a voice. Like, if you can't do it, don't bother, Luckily for me, Fortress of the Damned sounds like my high school. Fortunately for me, Micah Mason can do it. And everything comes out very authentic, and I really enjoy it. I feel like I got sidetracked from what I was actually saying. What was the original question?
If there's anything outside of this particular genre that you're
That's right.
looking at doing.
So the palette cleanser that I'm writing is a retro-futuristic noir, and it's going to be, set in it's going to be set in the future at an undisclosed distance, and it's set in a city that may be built on the bones of some familiar city after some some war has happened or something like that. But it's going to deal with robotics and AI and the dark web. So it's going to be kind of a horror techno thriller kind of thing. It's going to be sort of like automation, meets horror. And I'm having fun with that one. It's been rattling around in my melon for a long time. It's the closest thing to a complete narrative that's in there that I've had in a long time. Because usually I start writing and I've got images, I've got scenes, I've got plot points I want to hit, and then we just sort of drag ourselves to that, from this by the seat of our pants out.
Yeah.
This one was one of the few things that I was actually able to plot out and say, this is going to happen in this chapter, this is going to happen in this chapter, this is going to happen in this chapter. It's probably going to end up being novella length. It's probably not going to end up like full-length book. And I'm not planning to finish and release it before the next Kit Barker. I'm planning, the plan right now is just to get the bones down, to get a good solid first draft, maybe 50,000 words or something. And then just slide it onto the back burner and get back into Kit Barker's world and close out the arc that I started in Shadow of Wolves and then built to, in Fortress of the Damned.
So with this dystopian sci-fi, are you going to stick with J.R. White, or are you going to use a pen name?
The current plan is to stick with J.R. White. There are a couple other people writing as J.R. White, and one of them writes steamy bodice rippers. One of them writes stuff that I just don't think I don't think that they have an audience. I think they're just writing for themselves, which is, I think, fine.
What's her name? That'll be our next guest.
The name's J.R. White, man.
No.
Pay attention.
But my current plan, hopefully, is just to outcompete them for name recognition. That actually might be fun, to be honest.
The three J.R. Whites.
Question one: how often are you confused for each other?
No, I think we need to read like a couple sentences in one of your books and okay, you finished the paragraph.
That's not a bad idea. Like, there's entertainment quality to that notion. If you had like a bunch of authors on and just like everybody gets a sentence, let's see what happens. If you decide to do that,
pass it around.
If you decide to do that, let me know. I will definitely hop in for that.
Okay,
that would be fun.
But keep getting sidetracked. But I would use J.R. White. The only concern I have is this retro futuristic techno thriller. This sort of like, Heinlein meets, it's darker than the stuff I've done before.
Yeah.
And the language I use in it is harsher. Kit Barker, like you'll hear Kit Barker say things like, he muttered a curse, he growled a curse, right? And there is profanity in the books, but not like, it's much more raw in the stuff I'm working on now.
Well, you could, the nice thing about using J.R. White right now is you could just say Justin White with that.
I could.
And just, leave out the middle initial altogether. And
I could. And I think with the Amazon systems, I could just go back and rework all my covers and just, redo it. And initially I wanted to stick with J.R. White because it gives you
No. I mean on the new one, just
I could
use your actual name for as the name for that book as opposed to J.R. White. There's plenty of people who do that They'll have, one type of books with like two initials and the last name, and another set of books with the first name and last name, and variations of
Okay.
that, rather than trying to think of some weird genre specific kind of name.
Yeah, because I could see the risk of someone who's read like The Bounty and the Bones.
Mm-hmm.
They're unless they have
Not
a
going to be offended by a
problem.
little swearing.
Yeah, if they have a problem with F-bombs, like I don't think someone who's read The Bounty and the Bones is going to have a problem with
No.
my futuristic story I'm working on now. But someone who's used to the Barker novels, just because of the time period they're set in, the profanity's a little, right?
Yeah.
The F-bomb has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fit people's perceptions of the time period. Have you ever heard of the Tiffany conundrum?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So for those of you in the comment section that don't know what this is, in the medieval ages, right? During the medieval time period, Tiffany was a super common name. But if you were to write a book now set in the medieval era and have Princess Tiffany, nobody would buy it. It wouldn't feel right? They want Guinevere or Gertrude or, something with a hard G on it. Like, they don't want Tiffany. So there is something to that. You have to, and this is something that I've struggled with sometimes with trying to do the more historically accurate takes, is sometimes you just have to play to people's perceptions and give people what they expect. On the small stuff, I want to give people the unexpected on the big stuff. But
so, Justin, I have a question for you that I wanted to make sure I asked you, because never in my life have I ever heard of a whiskey fort until I read your book. Did you know about that before you started writing, or is that something that your buddy in Montana told you about?
I found out about that when I was doing my research. I knew I wanted basically a siege tale. Yeah. Right. I had all these scenes in my head of what does it look like if Barker is besieged somewhere. And so I knew I needed a fort, right, to be besieged in. Yeah. And I was researching the proper time period and, when it would be, because I try not to have too much time between each books in their timeline. Yep. So I knew it would be about the 1877, 78. I know. And I was thinking about Montana territory, and in my research, I found out that the whiskey trade was huge in Montana territory up to the border, which they called the medicine line. And you had whiskey traders who would build forts just to trade whiskey. Mostly they would trade whiskey to the natives, and they would get hides and furs and stuff like that in return. And the government was always going back and forth about whether that was legal or not. And so sometimes this was under the table. You had a lot of things like guys would water down, whiskey, right? You'd get like a very high proof whiskey and you'd haul it and a bunch of empty bottles, out to a spring in your whiskey fortress, and you could dilute the whiskey because it was less weight to move if you did it that way.
Right. And
sometimes you would go across the border into Canada, and then the Royal Mounted Police would come for you. So you'd go back down into the, into the Americas, or back down to the United States, into the territory. And I have a question here. Most early trading posts essentially stockade forts. Yes. Right. They were built with whatever the available local materials were. I think the fortress in Fortress of the Damned is really cool. The natural features and stuff it uses to be built. I'm not going to describe that to you. You just have to read the book, but I think it's cool.
You want to show us the cover of your new book one more time?
Yeah. So here we go. I'm sorry for the not for resale band in the center.
That's all right. And this is out today.
Yeah.
You've had 20 minutes now. Give us a refresh of your Amazon.
Yeah, I'll put a new one in there.
And if
Oh,
you,
it's
you
asking me to
missed
connect
the
and all this
link,
stuff.
you can go back up the chat and find the link where you can go get this thing. See if we can find it real quick. We'll throw it up here.
I'm going to throw a link in for just for all the books, if it'll let me jump in. Just let me in, StreamYard.
StreamYard giving you problems? No way.
It's redirecting. Whoops, we're having trouble. You got that link, Mike. Can you throw it back in there for me?
Yeah, the one on the screen, you mean?
Yeah, that one, please. But yeah, it is live today. Today's
right.
the first day.
Hit your Amazon refresh. Let's see if we got you number one.
Oh, yeah, let's see what happened. That would be, I mean, I'd be over the moon if you guys pulled that off. I am still, unfortunately, at number 3.
That would all be us.
But still, that's pretty cool.
You didn't lose anything. That's really what's important, by God. It really would have sucked if you would have ended this by saying, "Oh, I'm 59th now." Thanks, fellas.
I'll tell you what, my first 2 books, Shadow of Wolves and Hail of Brimstone, they did actually jump back up into the top 10 today.
Nice.
For under bestsellers for Western horror fiction. In part because, and this is something I forgot to say this. I can't believe I forgot to say this, but the first 2 books, the ebooks, are 99 cents this week because of the new book launching. I set that so that if you're interested in getting into the series and getting to the new book and, have any concerns about risking something on a new author, the Kindle editions of Shadow of Wolves and Hail of Brimstone, you can get each of those for 99 cents this week. Right? That'll end, I think, Sunday.
What do you set your normal ebook price at?
I usually start, honestly, at $4.99, and then after it's been out a year, I'll drop it to $3.99, and then after that, I might drop it to $2.99 for the ebook. The prices on the print books, they don't really change unless printing prices go up, and then they have to go up because of the printing price going up. Sure. And then the audiobook, I essentially have no control over the pricing of the audiobook.
Right. Yeah.
But
why would you? It's only yours.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
What the hell do you know?
Yeah. But I am looking forward to the audio, and I'm excited about this new book. And I do really appreciate all the support. I love coming on you guys' show. It's always a good time. And I'm hoping to get this next book out much quicker than the last one.
So, Justin, before we go, Collective Con is in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And that is a pretty big convention, and I think you should look at that maybe as it's in March. But I went, and then I got really, really sick, and I had the plague, and I was losing my voice, so I did not do much in sales because no one wanted to talk to me. But I know a lot of authors who were there, and I'm like, why did you sell 17 books? I read the first chapter. It's terrible. But I would look at that if you, it's a 3-day con, but it's pretty big, and I think you'd be happy if you went there. I think you'd sell a ton.
Nice. I will look into that. Collective Con. Fantastic.
All right. So, Justin, thank you for coming and hanging out with us again. Congratulations on the new book. That sounds awesome. Remember, everybody, the first few are 99 cents. And today's the first day to get the other one. Get them up to number 1. Mike, anything to add?
No. Our next show is going to be Friday. We have another returning guest. What is her name? Katie Andrews. She was one of the Spiffbo finalists earlier this year, and she is writing a new series of novellas called Yeehaw Dragons. Cowboys with 6-shooters on dragons.
That sounds right up my alley. I'll have to.
So that'll be Friday at 7.
And Sam, if you are at Collective Con and Justin is there next March, and you do fight him for free books, it needs to be on video or it never happened.
See, I know Sam, man. That's a big dude. I'm just putting that out there. That's a large man.
We will definitely have that all over the Twitter sphere. We'll get some mileage on that.
Can your favorite author tap out a 6'4"?
30 seconds. That's how long you have to stay to sell the book.
Do it like the old carnival grapplers.
Right.
You get a free set of hard copies if you.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We need about 1.5 subscriptions a day to get Mike to get a tattoo in his head by the end of the year. I don't know. I don't think we're going to do it, but
There's going to be a treasure map.
No, now that you said it,
it's a guy with a sai cutting down what's left of his hair on the side.
Everybody, all of my friends in the comment section, you need to subscribe.
Yeah,
just so Mike can get a tattoo.
Just get us to 500, then you can do whatever you want.
This is the tattoo that I will be getting if we get to 500 by the end of the year.
See, they've even got a mock-up. You guys can make this happen. Come on, comment section.
Yes, after you buy Justin's book, then sign. Well, sign up here first. You're here, so sign up first, and then buy Justin's book. Get him number 1. If he gets to number 1, I'll have goats put on the other side, like they're eating the other side of the hair.
John Douglas, you are late, man. We are just signing off. You're going to have to go back and watch it on the recording. So, thank you, everybody, and we will see you Friday.
Take care, everybody.